There is one specific touch, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is today, that causes a mature woman's brain to release the same chemical cocktail as falling in love for the very first time. Most men have no clue it exists, and the few who do, they never struggle with women again. But here's the part that should genuinely concern you. If you've been touching a woman the wrong way, you haven't just been missing opportunities. You've been actively pushing her away. And she never told you why. So let me be brutally honest with you right now. As a woman, I can tell you something that will probably sting a little. When a mature woman loses interest in a man, 90% of the time it's not because of what he said. It's not because of how he looked. It's not even because of how much money he spent. It's because of how he touched her, or more accurately, how he didn't. A study published in the journal Biological Psychology found that meaningful physical touch triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, at levels up to 300% higher than verbal affection alone. 300%. That means your words, your compliments, your carefully rehearsed lines, they're operating at roughly 1/3 the emotional power of a single well-placed touch. And when we're talking about mature women, women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, this effect is amplified because these women aren't chasing butterflies anymore. They're chasing depth, sincerity, and a man who understands the language their body has been speaking for decades. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I'm not talking about anything inappropriate. I'm not talking about being aggressive or crossing boundaries. In fact, what I'm about to share with you is so subtle, so refined, that a mature woman won't even consciously realize what's happening. She'll just know she feels safe. She'll know she feels connected, and she'll know she doesn't want to let you go. But there's a catch, and this is the part you absolutely cannot skip. The order matters. Touch number 5 on this list has been called the silent proposal by relationship psychologists, and when you hear why, your entire understanding of physical connection is going to shift. So stay with me through every single one of these, because the last two are the ones that separate a man she forgets by Tuesday from a man she thinks about at 3 in the morning. Let's start with the touch that is criminally underrated and almost embarrassingly effective. The lower back guide. And no, I don't mean slapping your hand on her back and shoving her through a doorway. That's not a touch. That's a traffic violation. What I'm talking about is this. When you're walking together, maybe entering a restaurant or moving through a crowded space, you gently place your open palm on the small of her lower back, not pressing, not gripping, just resting there with quiet confidence. The key word is open palm. Fingertips feel tentative. A closed hand feels controlling, but an open palm, that communicates something primal. It says, I'm aware of you, I'm protective of you, and I'm not afraid to show it. Dr. Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist at Rutgers University, has spent over 30 years studying romantic attachment. She explains that the lower back is one of the most neurologically sensitive areas of the body, densely packed with nerve endings that respond to gentle pressure by sending calming signals directly to the brain's limbic system, the emotional processing center. For a mature woman who has likely spent years navigating the world on her own, feeling a man's hand on her lower back doesn't just feel good, it feels like exhaling after holding her breath for a very long time. But here's the nuance most men miss. Timing. You don't do this on a first meeting when she barely knows your last name. You do this after she's already shown signs of comfort around you. Maybe she's leaned in during conversation. Maybe she's touched your arm while laughing. These are green lights. And when you respond with the lower back guide, you're not escalating. You're matching. And matching is what builds trust. A mature woman doesn't fall for the man who moves too fast. She falls for the man who moves at exactly the right pace. Now, this one is going to sound simple, and that's exactly why most men blow right past it, holding her hand, but not the way a teenager holds hands at a movie theater with sweaty palms and a death grip. No. What makes a mature woman's heart physically skip, and I mean that literally, research from the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that holding a romantic partner's hand synchronizes heart rates and even brainwave patterns. What makes her heart skip is when you hold her hand and then, without saying a word, you gently stroke her thumb with yours. That tiny, almost invisible motion communicates something enormous. It says, I'm not just holding your hand out of habit. I'm present. I'm here. And I'm thinking about you right now in this moment. A woman in her 20s might not even notice this, but a mature woman? She notices everything. She's been through relationships where a man held her hand in public but emotionally checked out years ago. She's been through dinners where the man across from her was physically there but mentally scrolling through his phone. So when you do something as small as stroking her thumb while holding her hand during a walk or sitting next to her at dinner, you're not doing something small at all. You're telling her without a single word that she has your full attention. And for a mature woman, full attention is the most seductive thing on the planet. More than flowers, more than fancy dinners, more than any grand romantic gesture you could possibly perform. This third touch is one that most men reserve for moments of sadness or comfort, and that's a massive mistake. Because the forehead touch, resting your forehead gently against hers, isn't just a consolation move. It's one of the most intimate, non-sexual touches that exist between two human beings. Think about it. When you press your forehead against someone else's, your faces are inches apart. You can feel each other's breath. Your eyes are too close to focus, so you both instinctively close them. And in that moment, the rest of the world completely disappears. There's something almost sacred about it. It requires vulnerability from both people. You can't rest your forehead against someone you don't trust, and you can't receive it from someone you don't feel safe with. Dr. Tiffany Field, director of the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami, has published over 100 studies on the psychological effects of touch. Her research consistently shows that forehead-to-forehead contact activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for deep emotional bonding and long-term attachment. Not short-term attraction, not fleeting desire, long-term, I want to build something with this person attachment. A mature woman has been kissed, she's been hugged, she's been held, but the forehead touch, that's rare. And rarity creates value. When you pause in a quiet moment, maybe after a meaningful conversation, maybe after she's shared something personal, and you gently lean in and rest your forehead against hers without saying anything, you just told her everything she needed to hear without opening your mouth. Now we're getting into territory that separates men who understand women from men who are still guessing. The face cradle is exactly what it sounds like. You take both hands, gently, and you cup her face, not grabbing, not squishing, cradling, the way you'd hold something precious, something irreplaceable, and this is the part that honestly surprises most men when I explain it. This touch is more emotionally powerful than a kiss. A kiss can be routine, a kiss can be habitual, but when a man stops, looks a woman in the eyes, and slowly brings both hands up to hold her face, that's not routine, that's intentional. And intention is the currency of mature love. Here's something fascinating from an evolutionary psychology perspective. When someone cups your face, it triggers a deeply ingrained response from infancy. The sensation of being held, being seen, being the sole focus of someone's entire world. For a mature woman who may have spent years feeling invisible, in her marriage, in her career, in a society that often sidelines women past a certain age, this touch doesn't just feel romantic, it feels like being found. The key here is eye contact. You don't do the face cradle while looking at your phone or glancing at the waiter. You do it while looking directly into her eyes, and you hold that gaze for just a beat longer than feels comfortable. That slight discomfort, that's where the magic lives. That's the moment her nervous system switches from, this is nice, to, I might be falling for this man. I told you earlier that touch number 5 has been called the silent proposal, and I wasn't exaggerating. Relationship psychologist Dr. John Gottman, the man whose research can predict divorce with over 90% accuracy, has written extensively about what he calls small things often. His core finding, across over 40 years of studying couples, is that grand gestures don't sustain relationships. Small, consistent, intentional moments of connection do. And the behind-the-ear brush is the king of small moments. Here's what it looks like. You're close to her, maybe sitting side by side, maybe standing face to face, and you reach up and gently brush a strand of hair behind her ear. Even if her hair doesn't need fixing. Especially if her hair doesn't need fixing, because the touch was never about the hair. The skin behind the ear and along the hairline is extraordinarily sensitive. It's thin, loaded with nerve endings, and almost never touched by anyone in everyday life. When you brush that area lightly, it sends a cascade of pleasurable signals through her nervous system that her conscious mind can't override. She will physically shiver. Her breath will change, and she won't fully understand why she suddenly feels so drawn to you. A mature woman has developed strong emotional defenses over the years. She's learned to be cautious, analytical, and protective of her heart. But this touch bypasses all of that. It speaks directly to the part of her brain that doesn't negotiate. It doesn't analyze. It just feels. And what it feels is, this man pays attention to me in ways nobody else does. That is why psychologists call it the silent proposal. Because in that 1 3-second gesture, you've communicated more commitment, more tenderness, and more awareness than most men manage in an entire relationship. Now, touch number 6 adds an element that every mature woman craves, but very few men have the confidence to deliver: controlled strength. The waist pull is when you place your hand on her waist and gently, I repeat, gently, pull her toward you. Not yanking, not jerking, a smooth, firm, intentional pull that closes the distance between you. This touch works because it communicates a very specific message. It says, I want you closer. Not, I want something from you. Not, I'm trying to escalate. Just, I want you closer. And the distinction between those messages is everything. A study from the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior found that women consistently rated men who used controlled, purposeful physical gestures as significantly more attractive and trustworthy than men who were either too passive or too aggressive with their touch. The sweet spot, the place where attraction lives, is confident gentleness, and the waist pull is the physical embodiment of confident gentleness. For a mature woman, this touch hits differently than it does for younger women. A younger woman might find it exciting or thrilling. A mature woman finds it reassuring. It tells her that you're not passive, you're not timid, you know what you want, but you also know how to want it respectfully. And that combination, desire plus respect, is the formula that makes a mature woman think, this one is different. The best time to use this? When you've been apart, even briefly. Maybe she walked to the restroom and came back. Maybe you met up after work. That moment of reunion where you place your hand on her waist and gently draw her in. She'll remember that moment longer than any gift you've ever given her. And now we arrive at the touch that ties everything together. The touch that, if done correctly, will make a mature woman feel something she may not have felt in years, maybe decades. The slow embrace with breath sync. This is not a regular hug. Regular hugs are what you give your aunt at Thanksgiving. This is something entirely different. Here's how it works. You pull her into a hug, slowly, not a quick grab, a slow, deliberate draw inward. And once she's against you, you don't pat her back. You don't squeeze and release. You hold. You stay. And then, this is the part that changes everything. You consciously slow your breathing. Deep, steady breaths. Within seconds, her breathing will unconsciously synchronize with yours. This phenomenon is called respiratory synchrony, and it's been documented in numerous studies, including research from the University of Colorado Boulder, that found when romantic partners synchronize their breathing, pain perception decreases, empathy increases, and feelings of emotional connection intensify dramatically. The researchers described it as a biological bridge between two nervous systems. For a mature woman, this embrace does something that no amount of texting, calling, or dating can accomplish. It tells her body, not her mind, her body, that she is safe with you, that she can let go, that she can stop being strong for just a moment and simply be held by someone who isn't in a rush to let go. Most men hug for about 3 seconds. Research from psychosomatic medicine suggests that the bonding effects of a hug don't even begin until the 6-second mark. So when you hold that embrace for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, while breathing slowly and steadily, you're not just hugging her. You're rewiring her emotional response to you. You're becoming her safe place. And once a mature woman decides you're her safe place, she's not going anywhere. So here's what I need you to understand. These 7 touches aren't tricks. They're not manipulation tactics. They're the physical language of emotional intelligence. And when you use them with genuine care, with real intention, and with respect for the woman in front of you, you're not just making her fall in love. You're showing her that the kind of love she stopped believing in still exists. The men who understand this don't chase women. They don't beg for attention. They don't wonder why she stopped texting back, because they've learned something that most men never will, that the right touch at the right moment speaks louder than 1,000 words ever could. Now, here's what I want you to do. And this isn't optional if you're serious about understanding women at this level. I want you to choose just one touch from this list, one, and use it intentionally in your next interaction. Not all 7. 1. Pay attention to how she responds. Watch her eyes, watch her breathing, watch whether she moves closer or pulls away. That single observation will teach you more about connection than 100 articles or videos ever could. And once you see it work, once you feel that shift, come back here and tell me which touch you chose, because I read those comments, and I respond. But before you go, and I mean this, there is something you need to see right now, because touch is only one half of the equation. The other half? It's the signal she's already sending you that you're completely missing. There's a video on screen right now called "She Won't Say Kiss Me," but her body already did. 6 signs. And it reveals the exact physical cues a woman gives when she wants you to make a move. Cues that are so subtle, most men walk right past them and never even know what they lost. If you just watch this entire video about how to touch her, but you can't read the signals she's sending back to you, you're only playing with half the playbook. That video completes the picture. Click it now, because the men who understand both sides of this conversation, the giving and the receiving, those are the men who never sleep alone, wondering what went wrong.